Hey everybody, this is Rykard here again, back with another black and white Pokemon analysis. Today, we're going to be discussing the high-pressure Pokemon known as Gigaiath. So let's get started by taking a look at its abilities and its stats. So first off, some of you might be wondering why I said Gigaiath and spelt it Gigaiath as opposed to Gigaisu. Well, honestly, I'm not sure which one is the American translation or if either of them are an American translation, but according to Cerebi, Gigaiath is the name of it, so I'm going to stick with that for the rest of the video. As for this Pokemon's typing, it is a mono rock type, meaning that it has plenty of weaknesses, which is unfortunate, but it does get some good resistances that allow this Pokemon to take hits on those resistances pretty well. As for the abilities, the first one that it gets, or the one that you'll get in-game at least, is Sturdy, which in this generation is essentially a focus sash in the sense that you will always survive an attack if you have full HP with 1 HP. As for its Dream Mode ability, it is a new ability known as Sand Strength. And what it does is it multiplies the power of rock, ground, and steel type moves by 1.3 when you're in a sandstorm. So that will allow this Pokemon to do a lot of damage if you have Sand Strength as its ability, and you will see in a second why that is the case. But for its first stat, you will notice that it has 85 base HP, which is pretty good HP for this Pokemon, and it's amazing when you couple it with its 130 physical defense, which is absolutely monstrous. So this Pokemon will be very capable of taking lots of physical hits. On the other hand, its special defense isn't nearly as good, but it still can be boosted to give you good Specty and not have to worry about physical defense since it's already pretty high at its base level, so it'll give you some pretty well-rounded defenses. As for its physical attack, it is also incredibly high at 135, so this Pokemon can exceed over 400 attack if you give it an Adamant nature or a nature that increases physical attack and then max EVs in that category. And this is what I meant before by Sand Strength having absolutely ridiculous power on this Pokemon because it has such high attack and learns a lot of moves that would be boosted by Sand Strength. As for its special attack, it's not nearly as good at 60, so chances are you probably won't be using this Pokemon with a special set. It does learn Solar Beam, which is very weird, but that's a possible move that you might use with a special set if you're thinking of that. And as for its speed, it's fairly slow because most rock types are, so you're only going to get 25 base speed, which would also mean that this Pokemon could be amazing in Trick Room if you try and use a set for that. But right now we're going to get started with a couple of sets that I thought of that would make use of this Pokemon's unique stats and abilities. So let's take a look. So for this first set, it is going to be characteristic of a lead position that this Pokemon could potentially make use of. And this is going to be a little bit unconventional than what you might be used to, but it works out pretty well. The first thing you're going to notice is that it has an Adamant nature, meaning it has increased physical attack and decreased special attack. As for the ability, we're going to be using the ability Sturdy just in case you are faced with a Pokemon that can one-hit KO you, and then you'll obviously survive with the 1 HP. As for the EVs, we're going to max out your HP with 252 EVs into that stat, and also max out your defense with 252 EVs into that stat. And obviously the remaining EVs are going to go into attack. And even though you're not putting any EVs into attack, really, this Pokemon still has over 300 attack just with the Adamant nature, which shows you how powerful this Pokemon can be. As for the item, we're going to be using Leftovers since this is a more defensive set and not one that is just going to be hit by or hit down to your Focus Sash and then disposed of, and by Focus Sash I obviously mean Sturdy. So Leftovers will come in handy as this Pokemon can be used throughout the battle to wall physical hits. As for the moveset, the first move is going to be Stealth Rock, which is obviously, the thing you want to do when you're a lead. And this Pokemon is one of the few black and white Pokemon that actually learn Stealth Rocks or can get it as a breedable ability. Otherwise, the only Pokemon that will be using Stealth Rocks this gen are ones that are ported over from Diamond and Pearl that had Stealth Rocks because of the TM. That's my phone, sorry, ignore that. As for the next move, it's going to be Rock Blast, and it's kind of a really awesome move to have in a lead situation, because what it does is first it breaks focus sashes that your opponent may be carrying, and it also allows you to break substitutes if your opponent wants to do that. So say if you're faced against like an Aerofun or something like that with Mischievous Heart that likes to just sub up and Leech Seed and crap like that, well, if you have Rock Blast on you, you can break their sub and then damage it afterwards. Rock Blast is also amazing if you're up against a Ninjask lead that's going to try and set up that way, because obviously it'll essentially take it out because it's 4 times weak to it. And those are just like some common ideas that I figured Rock Blast would be very useful for over a move like Stone Edge or something like that when you're being a lead. The next move is Protect, and the reason for that is because I've been seeing a lot of Kajundo leads in the Wi-Fi battles I've been watching, and obviously this Pokemon, or Kajundo, has high jump kick, and obviously since Gigaiath is a rock type, it's weak to fighting, and you can possibly surprise that Kajundo by protecting and then it hitting itself and taking away half of its health in the process. So it's a pretty cool move to have on this Pokemon. It also lets you scout what your opponent is going to try and do in a lead situation as well. If you expect them to like attack you or something and you don't really know, you can just protect to be safe. As for the last move, you can either use Toxic or Explosion. The reason for Toxic is because in this set, I really hope that Gigaiath will be lasting throughout, or doing more than just being a lead, essentially. Like, you can bring it back into battle after you set up Stealth Rocks or do whatever you need to. So Toxic is there so that you can obviously allow it to inflict poison on your opponents and hopefully wear them down in the process. The other option would be Explosion if you're trying to just go out with as much damage as possible. And even though Explosion got a nerf in this gen, meaning it doesn't half your opponent's defense anymore, it'll still do a hell of a lot of damage because of how high Gigaiath's attack is. So this is pretty much the lead set for Gigaiath that I thought of, and it's a little bit different than what you're probably used to seeing. As for this next set, which is the last set we're going to be looking at today, it is one that will function really well under a Sandstorm or in a Trick Room team, which makes it really cool to want to use, since you obviously have 2 Pokemon that can easily set up Sandstorm, like Tyranitar and Hippowdon, and then plenty of Pokemon that can learn Trick Room that can make this Pokemon incredibly fast because of its really low base speed. So first we're going to give it a Careful Nature to increase its special defense but decrease its special attack. And we're going to be using its Dream World ability, Sand Strength, so that your physical attack moves have more power if there's a Sandstorm up. The EV spread on this one is going to be similar to the previous set, except we're going to be maxing out Spec D instead of physical defense. So 252 for HP to max out your HP, and 252 EVs for special defense to max out your special defense. And obviously the remaining EVs are going to go into attack again. The item for this set can either be Leftovers or a Chesto Berry, and it depends on which one you want to do. I would think Leftovers would be a better ability to have if you're with a Sandstorm team, whereas Chesto Berry would be a better item to have if you're with a Trick Room team, just so you can wake up immediately from rest. But it's up to you which one you want to use. They're both effective and will do what they're expected to do, obviously. As for the moves, the first one is Curse, which is an awesome move that increases your attack and physical defense while lowering your speed. So in a Sandstorm team, obviously since you're running max Spec D with the Careful Nature and the Sandstorm is boosting your special defense, you're going to have really high special defense. And what Curse will do, it will allow you to have really high physical defense as well. Since its base stat for physical defense is already ridiculously high, after one Curse you'll be able to take a lot of physical hits and it'll be really annoying, I assume, to your opponent. It also will increase its monstrous attack, so you'll be doing a lot of damage, and if a Sandstorm is up again, you'll be doing even more with your 2 attack moves, which are Rock Slide over Stone Edge, so that you have more PP and more accuracy, and also the chance to flinch if you're under a trick room since you'll be going first. And then Earthquake because it's just a very powerful ground type move and it provides good coverage with Rock Slide. And it also gets a Sand Strength boost. As for the next move, it's going to be Rest, so that after you curse, you can rest up and have full HP to be able to take lots of hits from the physical or special side and also deal a lot of damage back at your opponent. So I personally believe this is one of the most effective sets for Gigaiath just because you're making use of all of its great stats that it has. So it's pretty much using this Pokemon to its full potential, personally, in my opinion at least, but you guys don't have to think that. That's just me. But I hope you guys like this Pokemon and like these sets, seeing as they're probably something different than what you might be used to seeing already. But let me know in the comments what you think, and I will see you guys in my next video. So take care and goodbye.